Hey everybody, it's Miguel here. How you guys doing? I'm doing pretty good. Um, it's time to have another Sunday spiritual talk, and we'll see where this goes. I have a couple things in mind. One of the things that I was just aware of is that I was making a couple other videos, and I was having this pretty intense anxiety around what I'm going to say and how it's going to come out, and saying the right things, and really overthinking what I'm going to do in this video, and then kind of jumbling it all up and botching it up and having to take many takes. And the more takes it takes, the more uncomfortable I get. It's a very strange thing because it's just me and that camera. But for some reason, a live interview is way more comfortable for me, to actually see a human and talk to them. And even though it used to be a fear back in my younger years, talking to people, whether it's 50, 100, several hundred people, yeah, I can get some pre-jitters, but I don't really get nervous. And there's this really interesting thing. And I think what it mostly has to do with is I'm someone who does really good at speaking from my heart, just like I'm doing now, and without any rehearsal, just kind of going with whatever happens. And just, you know, there's a couple of things that I think about. No, I don't think of all y'all naked or anything like that, but I think about if there's people that are having judgment when they see me doing this or doing something, and they're picking me apart because I don't deliver what I'm trying to portray in an eloquent way, or with all the right wording, and in a real even, clear, concise way. Sometimes I might babble a little bit, all that stuff. I guess that's their problem. And if they're forming a judgment, which of course turns back to myself, if I'm watching somebody else trying to share something or share their vulnerability or their truth, and I'm having a judgment, maybe I should be looking at what's going on inside of me. What is it about me that is being triggered by this person that's just trying to share or offer something? Or, you know, or if I say that what they're offering isn't good enough, or talented enough, or valuable enough, or well organized. And I get there's some crossover if you're like maybe paying for a service or something like that, and you expect a certain thing, a certain standard, I suppose, to come back to you with what your investment is. You know, I guess that makes some sense. However, in cases like this, where people are just trying to share their vulnerability and other people have judgments, I've learned a long time ago, one of my elders, Patrick Pinson, he owns Cedar Mountain Drum. He said to me one time, "Who gives a bleep what other people think of you?" You know, and it kind of stuck with me in a way of like, it's up to me to love myself. It's up to me to value myself. It's up to me to say whether or not what I share with the world is valuable. And it's also up to me to do that. And I feel like we all have gifts. We all have things that we come here to learn about and to share. And a big part of being in this existence here is to figure out what your gifts are, and also figure out how they help others. Because this is a unified thing that we got going on here. This universal experience that we're all sharing. we have our own personal experiences, but we also, I feel deep in my heart that we're here to not only help ourselves to find our best life and to progress, for our souls to progress on a spiritual level and on an emotional level, all those things. We're here to help the whole with that progression. And so, you know, sharing oneself and one's gifts, it becomes a vital part of this experience and this journey. And so I guess that's what I'm sharing. That has nothing to do with what I thought I was going to share today, but that's what was coming up for me when I saw myself in that camera. And again, sitting here is even a little bit more comfortable than when I'm trying to say, hey, look at this flute, it's this and that, and I'm trying to memorize everything I'm supposed to say about that flute, and then I just get all jumbled up and nervous. And it's an interesting thing, because when I'm creating these videos, I'm looking at a picture of myself, and it's almost like I'm having what do you call it? I'm having some sort of conflict with what's inside of me. It's this really interesting thing that I'm just thinking about right now, and I know that we all have that, like what we say, we're our worst enemy, or what some people say, or you know, one thing I say a lot is that the only limitations that we have in this world is the limitations we put on ourselves. Like the Great Spirit withholds nothing from us, and our inability to receive, in this case, comfort, speaking in front of people, or speaking in front of myself, in front of a camera, has something to do with me. It has nothing to do with the camera. It has nothing to do with who may or may not watch it. It has something to do with me. And so it's a very interesting thing. And so I'm just bringing that out because I know that we all carry that, pieces of that. And that, let's just talk about men for a second. Men, I feel like, have this conditioning, or throughout history for quite a long time, have this conditioning of really not being vulnerable at all. It's about putting up a front of who we want to be seen as. Maybe there's some fake it till you make it type things too within that, but that we're supposed to be strong and invincible and not have vulnerability and not have weakness, and that somehow that'll be used against us, you know. And I've always been pretty rebellious about societal norms, I would say. Let's just keep it at that. And you know, a little vigilante in some sort of ways. At a younger time of my life, I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about, excuse my language, but screw society and what they tell me is right and wrong and successful. And I'm not saying I was like an anarchist and just, you know, breaking all the rules, so to speak, but for example, I didn't go to college. I see college as a very valuable thing. I love that my daughter's in college right now and learning, and I feel like broadening her horizons and possibilities of all the things that she could potentially do in her life. But that path didn't feel intuitively like it was my path. And it was a difficult choice because society, family members, and just in general society will tell you that that you know, your options are limited, you know. But again, back to what I said, the only limitations that we have is our way that we think about things. The universe can provide all of the things that we need. And then if we go and think about like the Tao Te Ching or different Taoist and or many spiritual teachings is a simple path is just as valuable of a path. I've said in a couple other interviews and stuff, when I look back and who was like someone I idolized as a kid. One of the people that I remember is Geppetto. That's the guy who created Pinocchio. And if you remember that, back in the 70s Disney World era, he lived in a very poor house, and I think that he might have had a little mouse that he fed in the little hole in his wall and things like that. And he was a woodworker and had a very, very simple life, but he had a very, very kind heart and loving heart. And I aspired to be like that at a very young age. And there's other memories I have. When I was 10 years old and I went to my father's homeland, and they lived in a more of a village setting. They didn't have doors on their houses back then. They just had mosquito nets over their beds. And the whole mountainside was all blood relatives, and the door was open to anybody. My great grandma, she would make big vats of rice, and that, she would feed the whole mountainside. Many homes, and there was platanos, people farmed there, and one cow that people milked there. And to me, that looked like wealth. To me, that looked like riches. Like just what a beautiful image that I had in my head. And that memory, those two memories that I just mentioned, helped mold who I am today, and what I value and what I deem as valuable and important. And so, anyway, I'm just still talking about the limitations that we put on ourselves, oftentimes influenced by what society tells us and what's been ingrained in our head. And then we could get deep into quantum physics and all of that stuff about how, our thoughts become things, and there's actual physiology that, when we're sort of rebirthing ourselves and changing the way we believe and think about things, like we're actually going in and having to, recondition these receptors in our brain that have been developed since infancy, and it can feel like an uphill battle. And sometimes we can free ourselves from those limitations in an instant. So that's the beauty and the magic of the way that creating the life we want can work. So I guess we'll just leave it at that. I have no idea. I'm too far away from the camera to see how much time went by here. But I did want to talk a little bit about magic too. And I guess I was just opening the door for that, but we'll leave that for another talk about how we can invite magic into our lives. And when we're walking the path that feels true to our soul, let's just say that. I don't want to say supposed to be or whatever. We can choose many paths. But when we're in alignment with who we are, our whole being, the whole universe opens itself up to us. And all of these synchronistic things happen. And it's very mystical, it's very magical, and it's a beautiful way to spend your days. It's a beautiful way to live. And I hope that more and more, as we learn about ourselves and we learn about each other and we learn about, a bigger picture of maybe how things work, that our lives become like that's the norm, is that we see the synchronicities, we see things aligning for ourselves, so we can be real clear about, oh, that was brought to me, okay, that's brought to me to assist this and that, and it builds, and that it's just such a beautiful way to live a life. to where you can see the magic and see the pieces of the puzzle getting built together as we take this journey of life. So we'll talk about that more later. And this little bit of music in the background is very similar to one of the songs that'll be on my new album that's going to be coming out hopefully within the next month. That's what we're aiming for. We are done recording, maybe a few more tracks just to fill in some songs, but other than that, we're mixing down and mastering and releasing a new album. Also, if you're subscribed to our newsletter, you will see, I think today or within the next couple of days, putting out a newsletter about a shorter, about a 20-minute album that we released with my buddy Chaz. That's beautiful as well. But we're also completing this hour-long meditation CD. It's one that I tried to keep soft and sweet and sultry and healing, and I put a little bit of rhythm and things like that into my other albums and tried to make it a little bit more eclectic, but in this case I just wanted to just make it really just soul healing album, and I'm really loving what's coming out. And the best way I could explain it is it feels like I took my insides and I put them out here for all of you guys. It's just, and it's me. It's my innards. Anyhow, so this is actually a real similar melody to a song, and I'm gonna play the exact flute that I used in the recording studio, and I'll play a little bit of music with this handpan melody here. Okay, love y'all.